Hello, my friends. I'm back with another dedication video for my beloved, beautiful, sweet angel, Richard. And I was thinking about today. I'm always thinking about Richard. Um, I'm always talking to him, either sometimes out loud when I'm in the house or sometimes just within my mind silently. And I was thinking about something today. I don't know, something reminded me of, I think I was going through something, one of his, I've been trying to clean his room, and that's a whole nother story that I will share, especially to Brett, because Brett knows about the condition of his room, and I always was the one that tried to keep everything clean for Richard, and something that I feel another guilt thing that weighs heavily on me, because Richard was so brilliant and could do everything you could ever imagine. That something that ever needed to be fixed, he could fix it, from computers to vehicles to things that have gone wrong on the ranch, whether it's plumbing, water, situations, replacing heaters, you name it, he knew how to do it. And he learned by reading and hands-on, just learning how to do things himself. And when I was younger, I got hooked on Gurdjieff, George Gurdjieff, Russian Greek philosopher, and he was kind of a guru, and started a school for students to help them to not only become spiritually aware of their soul. One of his practices that he emphasized in the school was called Remember Yourself. And there's a deep spiritual meaning to the idea of remember. If you take the word re and a hyphen with member, it has to do with bringing together all the members of yourself and finding that one eternal part of yourself. And one of the practices that he taught his students was to be constantly aware of yourself. And it's not an easy practice. It sounds easy, but it is not. It takes a great deal of attention and awareness, and it requires that you silent your mind the best you can, and watch yourself. Watch every aspect of yourself. Watch how you brush your teeth, for an example. Watch how you walk, how you hold your posture. And the more you become aware of certain characteristics that you have, the more that you become a little bit more alert of yourself and some part of yourself that is above the ego, above all the different personality changes. We all have personality changes. It's kind of like changing masks depending on where you are and what role you're playing. You may wear a personality mask when you're a teacher, and that's a role that you're playing. And you may have a different personality mask when you're with certain people, and it changes. But what Gurdjieff taught was, how do you rise above those personality changes and the ego, And one way is to just keep a constant awareness of yourself, kind of like you're watching yourself on a movie. And I used to practice it when I was younger. When I first started reading Gurdjieff, it was one of the things that I tried to do. And what happens is you watch yourself and you're carefully, seeing everything, and you start to get this experience of something inside of you is above all the nonsense in your brain and all the chatter, what they call the monkey mind, and you rise above that, and you're just sort of seeing yourself and getting some clarity and awareness. And it's actually it's kind of a form of meditation, but it's rather difficult. And Ouspensky used to talk about it, how he would practice it, and he would be watching himself and, quote, remembering his higher self. And then he would go over and cross the street to a store to buy a pack of cigarettes or something, and the next thing you know, he would walk back and realized he forgot himself. He forgot watching himself. So it's not an easy practice to do, and it takes time, and you have to do it, on a, as much as you possibly can. But it's a practice that pays off, because it brings you to that place, that part of yourself that's permanent, that part of yourself that is eternal. And that's why Gurdjieff always emphasized, watch yourself, remember yourself. And so I had been thinking about, how I used to try to do these things. And after Richard passed, I've been becoming more interested in trying to get back to my spiritual path that I had neglected for a very long time. And because Richard died, it is making me become more of a conscious soul. I want to be in touch with my soul, not my ridiculous personality changes. That makes any sense. But I was going through some things and thinking about that, and going through some books and so on. And then I had this flash of remembering when Richard and I were living in our VW camper van in Maui. And this must have been, I guess, like right around 1983. We had to rent the cabin that was just newly built. But as I mentioned in a previous video, Richard came upon kind of a rough patch, because we didn't have income coming in. He wasn't a practicing lawyer anymore, and he spent a bundle, between getting the ranch, buying the ranch, and building the log cabin. It kind of drained his funds, and so we had to kind of figure out a way to live and have income. And one way was, we're going to rent out our cabin. And it ended up being the best years of my life, I can tell you, because when we were living in our VW camper van in 1983 in Maui and in Kauai, it was a blast. I mean, I talked about this before. It was just so much fun. We would go from one beach to another. We didn't have a whole lot of money at that time. I don't know, I think we were just getting like $800 a month, but it was enough for us to just, be able to go out to our favorite restaurant, or, have breakfast. We'd get our breakfast at and at Hana, we'd get, rice and some salsa and toast, and that was plenty enough. And we were more healthy on that diet than any time that we were living in the house when we had, access to any, food that we wanted. I remember like how this isn't, unfortunately, this you're not going to be able to experience any of this now because everything has changed, and that was a long time ago. But back then, there was hardly any people up in Hana, and now it's a big tourist attraction. But back then, there were very, very small population up in Hana, mostly Native Hawaiians, and anywhere you would go, you would see like people having little fruit stands out in front, and they would have avocados and papayas and bananas and mangoes, and you could just, as we pulled into the park up in Hana, there was a little stand, and there were like a whole bunch of these beautiful big avocados, 50 cents a piece is all she asked. And there were avocados that were falling free, just right on the ground in some places, and papayas. Oh, it really was the very image of paradise, as they call Hawaii back then. And I remember we would stop, and we'd get some avocados, and for our dinner we'd have some bread and the avocados, 50 cents a piece. We'd get some salsa, and that would be our dinner. And once in a while we would go to this little stand, not a stand, but it was a little place that sold rice and soup, or I don't know what else. It was like you'd go up to the counter and order whatever you want. It was like an outside little cafe type thing, and we'd just get some rice, and we'd have some salsa and avocado, and I mean we stayed so healthy, and exercising was nothing because we were always swimming. That's how we exercised. We were always either swimming in a pool, or swimming in a stream, or swimming in the ocean. And it was just, I did not miss the cabin at all. As sad as it first made me to leave, because we had just bought it. Not bought it. He had just built it, is what I meant to say. And yet we had to leave, because this was our income, from the rent money. And I talked about that. We rented it to a very nice couple, two cute little girls, and they really did take very good care of the cabin. And in fact, I was sort of envious the way they had, brought in their furniture, and it just looked gorgeous. I mean, it's beautiful, and maybe at some point I'll be able to reduplicate that in the house. I would really like to tear out that old carpet that's been in there forever. It's the first carpet. It's over 40 years old, and it's had its day. But the way she designed the couches and the furniture, it was just beautiful. It was like something you would see in a magazine. But I deviate as usual. One thing leads to another, my thoughts. But I was just thinking, I started laughing out loud, and it kind of actually felt good to finally laugh about, I have these memories, but so much of my life after Richard died, so much of my time has been spent crying and grieving and just feeling a sense of overwhelming sadness in my heart. And today was the first day I started laughing, and I almost thought like that Richard was laughing with me, because there was this one time we, you know, I'm in my astrology, I'm a Pisces, and I'm in Chinese, I'm a monkey, and the monkeys are always playing little pranks, and I get Richard, who is a dragon, and we used to laugh about this because I would get him involved in doing a little prank, and it was like, you know, the monkey sitting on the dragon saying, okay, do this, you know. And we met this nice couple and up in Hana, and we got to talking with them a little bit, and I don't know what happened, but we started to just play a little prank on them. They were kind of a young couple, and they didn't know anything about. They were just visiting Hana for a short time, and they were just asking us questions about Hana, and we were telling them, and then we ended up going to this huge banyan tree that had like a little, you could drive right around this little banyan tree. It wasn't little, it was a really big banyan tree. And I remember there was like a circular thing where you could drive completely all the way around it. And somehow Richard and I said, yeah, just, follow us. We'll show you around. And we went over to this banyan tree, and we started going around it, and I said to him, keep going around it, and let's see how long they follow us. And so we just kept going round and round, and sure enough, they kept following us around this tree over and over again. We didn't stop, and we were just laughing our heads off because we thought they never stopped and said, hey, we're going round and round this tree. Why are we doing this? And it just was like a little prank that we were playing on them, just having a little fun with them and teasing them, but it was the funniest thing because we were in the van and they were in their car, and we seriously, like as though it was like, this is what we're supposed to do, we just kept going around and around and around, and they followed us each time around this banyan tree. It was just the silliest thing ever, but it just cracked me up. I just thought, look, they just keep following us around the tree. And, eventually, they ended up going back into Kihei or whatever, but they probably thought we were a little bit crazy. But yeah, we used to just have so much fun, and I never thought that, at that time when we were young, you don't think at all about getting older because you're still fairly young. Like Richard at that time, he must have been 40, and I was, like 27 or something. We were both young, and you don't think about growing old. You're just living in the moment, and you're living in the here and now. And that brings me back to the Gurdjieff practice that, when you're in nature and when you're doing something that's fun, you're right there. Your mind isn't scattered. Your mind isn't going in the past, and it's not going in the future. You're just right there, especially when you're having fun about something. You're like right in the moment. And there were so many memories of that where we were just right there in the present moment, enjoying, the beauty of everything, and just whatever was just a fun thing to do. And I remember we used to park over by Koki Beach, and the waves were real small there, and easily to play in and have fun, and you could do body surfing there, and we used to do that, and it was just so much fun. And I was thinking today about how, I just thought to myself, like so many people that lose their beloved one, they think about, wait a minute, we were supposed to grow old together, you weren't supposed to check out, we were supposed to go down this road together. And that part of it kind of made me really sad, because he was 15 years older, but I never thought about that. I never thought about his age or how much older he was. And yet, as you do get older, according to the law of nature, the one that's older is going to be the one that goes first. And I just felt like, I feel like this isn't, the way it was supposed to be. We were both supposed to just grow old together and do whatever elderly couples do together as they grow older. And I was fully intending, I thought to myself, after my mom died, I said to myself, well, I'm not going to let what happened to my mom, I'm not going to let that happen to Richard. I'm going to be there for him. I'm going to be taking care of him no matter what. If he gets to a point where he needs help, even getting into a bathtub or something, like I visualized all of that. Like, okay, he may need help going down the stairs. He may need help, taking a bath or whatever. And I will be there for him. I'll do it. I'll be his caretaker. And then he just left, he died. And sometimes I wonder if a person chooses to die at a certain time, not to be cruel to the other one and leave their beloved soul behind, but because they don't want their loved ones to have to go through any of that. They don't want to be a burden in any way. And that was Richard all the way. I mean, there's no way that he would ever want to be a burden to me. And he had, as I said in my other videos, a great deal of pride. And I know that it would be hard for him to even allow me to help him, with bathing or anything like that. I was also thinking he would never have wanted to live a life in pain or just exist by just almost being something of a vegetable either, he had heart problems, but what I mean by that is it wouldn't have been a life for him if he just couldn't, do the things that he wanted to do, even just small things like sit at the computer and, figure things out and do the things that he loved to do, or read. If it got to a point where he couldn't remember, let's say he had, dementia or something like that, he wouldn't have wanted to live like that. And I understand all of that. I understand if that's what he was thinking and why he wanted to leave before any of that happened. But all of these things, they're just all these thoughts that come through my mind. There are memories that sometimes break my heart, and then there are other memories that make me happy. And I try to think of the ones that make me happy, because I think when I remember the things that make me laugh and make me happy, I think that's when his soul connects with me the most. Okay, I'm kind of rambling on today, but I will talk to you guys later. Have a good day. All right, bye-bye.